Right, let's go into a little bit more detail now with all these categories, and I'm not going to work in order. I'm going to work in the order that's in my head because it makes more sense to me. Right, we're going to go into retrieve data and into the USB, and the backing papers we've kind of done. We've looked at it. What I've asked the team to do is to print some off, so I might give you a quick flick through later on. Canvas workspace files I'm going to leave to the end. And the card blanks I think are pretty self-explanatory, but we'll come back and just do a little bit more on those later. I want to get into the exciting bit, which is the doilies. So I chose to use a circle, and I also chose to use circle doily number 6. Okay, so once you've opened that up, your card shape is there for the doily. So let's click on that first and have a look. So you've got your easel card in here. So if you want to start with this layer, you absolutely can. So let's have a look at the large one, because that's the one I'm going to work on. So we've got large circle easel. So you've got that part of your card. Then we've got part B, which is the folded bit. So you've got your scoreline bit. And then you've got C. So you've got the piece that goes on the top. So the first two join together to make your card. And what Fran's done is cut it straight across the back so it stands up. So you're not having to go in with a pair of scissors. He's thought about that bit. And then this is the bit that you then build your doily on top of. Okay. Now you could just use that and mats and layers, because don't forget, on the SDX you've got an inward and outward offset option. On your CM you don't, but you do in Canvas. So you can then create nested shapes with that using the inward and the outward offset line, which is fabulous. So instantly you've got a whole set of nesting shapes. Cool, right? I know. So let's go back and let's go up. Now in the medium one, you'll have the same thing, but in a smaller size. So if you're going to create your own set of nesting shapes, use your large one and go bigger, and maybe 5 sizes bigger, and 5 outward offset lines and 5 inward. Then use your medium doily and go 5 out and 5 in, and then use your small original and go 5 out and 5 in, because it's always better to go from the original design when you're creating offset lines to a certain point, because it then goes just like there's no detail there. It follows the shape. So it eventually that design, so let's say it's a scallop like that, eventually the scallop will almost just become a straight curve. That sounds strange, doesn't it? A straight curve. But what's the best way to describe it? So when you make a shape bigger, so if you've got a scallop like that and you make it bigger, it will still start from more or less the same starting point, and it will just come higher on the scallop. When you create an offset line, it lifts, so say a 2mm offset line, from the dip, in the 2 dip points in the scallop, it will move up 2mm, and then it will follow the curve. And then if you did another one, it will follow up, go up 2 and follow the curve. So that curve gets less and less pronounced the further out you go. So it's worth using the small, medium and large to create that set of nests. Right, so that's your cards, and then you have your tent card. So you have this one. So if we go into the large again, you've got your piece that's got the perforation line in and your straight edge. So that's the back of your card. And then this will be the front of your tent card. Okay, so he's decided that he wanted to put some cards on. That's what he's done, which is fabulous. I think he thinks if he doesn't, I'll just ask him to do it anyway, so he might as well just do it. I think he's getting a little bit used to me now, and how pernickety I am. So let's go back into our doilies, and let's go back into the circles and back into doily number 6. So we've done the card shapes. Now your decorative edges. So these are the pieces that are going to cut out the different layers if you want them to. So once I show you the doily bit, you'll understand what that means. I'm going to come back to that one because it works better with the patterned panels. So that works with the pattern panels that are within this doily. All right, so I'm going to come back to that because I want to show you the basics of the doily first. So we go into doily edge large, and it opens up like this. So I'm going to set that on my mat. So I've got 4 layers here. I've got the outside edge, I've got the decorative part of the doily. I've then got another decorative outside edge and a plain circle. So I'm going to zoom in so that you can see each of these. I'm going to zoom into 400% so you can see. So if I scroll down here and I scroll over till we get to this side. So this is your outside edge. So that would be your first layer. So as you're sticking it onto your card, the biggest one I'm going to call layer 1. The one that goes on top of that I'm going to call layer 2. The one on top of that is layer 3, and the one on top of that is layer 4. So I'm numbering the layers as it would be when you're building your project. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay? Sticking it onto your card blank. Then you've got your decorative edge. Then if we scroll up, you've got another decorative edge. And then if I scroll across, you've then got your plain circle. So what does that look like when you cut it out? Well, let me show you what that looks like. So this is your layer 1. This is layer 2 that has the detail in, but no inside edge. So it cuts this full matte layer. So that is your second layer. Then you have your next decorative edge. That's layer 3. And then you have this layer, which is layer 4. And that builds your doily. Okay, so you've then got that to work with, and then you could decorate it with florals, you could put a sentiment on it. This is the basic doily and how that bit works. So what I want to do now is go through the different combinations that you get just from these 4 layers, because this is when it gets a little bit, well, it doesn't get a little bit exciting, it gets really exciting. What I've also done is created a list of all the different combinations that I came up with just using these 4. I'm going to give it to the team and we'll put it on as a downloadable PDF. So you can either print it off or you can view it on your computer. But I will always do it this way. Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 and layer 4. So I'm calling the layers in the order that you would stick them onto your card base, okay? Because I thought that made more sense. Right, so that bit. So you've got all those together. Then you can have just layers 1 and layers 2. And that could be the piece that you then decorate up. So you've got 1 and 2, right? Then we've got 1, 2 and 3. So you've got your edge, you've got your decorative, and then you've got your inside decorative edge. And each one of these little scallops fits perfectly underneath one of these little apertures here. So it looks really, really, really professional. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Now this is what it looks like when you stick all 4 together. So we've got 1, 2, oh no, sorry, this is 1, 2 and 4, leaving out that middle decorative edge. So again, that gives you a different look. So look, we go from that, which has that decorative edge. We miss out that layer and we add in the plain circle. So layers 1, 2 and 4. Don't need to remember any of this. Don't need to remember it. I'm going to write it all down. Okay, so just sit back and enjoy the education. So those 2, different. Then we do layers 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that's the whole thing, all cut out, glued on top of each other, okay? Then we can take layer 1, which is your outside edge, and layer 3 and leave the detail bit out. So then that becomes more like a flower shape. So you then might want to put a sentiment on there, fill it with decoupage flowers, whatever you want to do with it. It's giving you those 2 as a combination. And this is where you've got a solid base and then a solid layer. Okay, so that's 1 and 3, 1 and 4. So that's your outside edge and your inner plain circle. Remember, we're only working with 4 layers here and we're getting all these different combinations. So that's a solid back, and then a solid circle, and that gives you that bit. Now we've got layers 1, 3 and 4, so we're missing out the detail. We've got layer 1, layer 3 and layer 4. Gives you a different look. Then we've got just layers 3 and 4. So if you just want to do some basic matting and layering, you've got that lovely inverted scallop edge just with the plain circle on there. Then we've got layers 1, 2 and 3. So layer 1 gives you the outside edge. Layer 2 gives you this detail, but layer 3 we use to cut that detail out. So this now is a frame. So all this is this frame here sat on top of the white. So you've then got this. So you're saving all this card. This is when you start to get a little bit cleverer with it. And you're saving all this extra piece of card because you've added those two files together. It's very cool. And I didn't want you to have to sit down and work this out because it's quite tricky. Well, it's not tricky, but your brain hurts a little bit after you get to like number 40 odd. And you're like, oh, have I done that? They were literally, so at the house in Peterborough, we've got this lounge and they were literally laid all over the floor. And I'm looking and going, have I duplicated that one? No, I haven't. Have I done that? Yes, it was, honestly, it was the best day. It was so much fun. Outside edge, detail, but using the plain circle rather than the decorative edge. So that gives you a different look. So if I go back to this one, look how different it looks. So all I've changed is this inner edge. I've got rid of that one and I've added in the plain circle. Looks different. Bolder, because this line is now, this frame for the distance between there and now is now thicker. It's wider. It looks chunkier. It has a bit more presence. So this is a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Bold. And this one is very lacy and feminine. Masculine, feminine, if that's the way you want to look at it. So you've got that. Now we come on to the layers of just using them with the frames. So now what we've done is taken the outside, so layer 1 and layer 3, and we've cut one inside the other and it gives you a frame like this. So that's 1 and 3. I've written all this down for you, don't need to remember it. This is layer 1 and 4, so your outside and your plain circle. So maybe you want to frame a photograph. That's perfect for that. Maybe you've got a lovely topper that's round like that, and you can fit this to the size of the circle that the topper is, and you just want to add a little bit more decoration around there. Then we can go to 1, 2 and 3. So I've used 2 and 3 to cut out the black frame, and then number 1 and number 3 to cut out the outside edge. So I'm now creating my own frames and layering them up on top of each other. This is just to show you the different options that you've got with one doily in one size on the USB. Then we've got your outside edge, so layer 1 and layer 4 cut together, and layer 2 and layer 4 cut together. So you then get this solid circle, or this open but plain circle in the middle. And then last but by no means least, we've used number 1 and number 4 and number 2 and number 3, and then we've laid it up. So now you get this white on the inside and the outside of that black. So that shows you how many different combinations you have just with those 4 layers, which is super, super, super exciting, I think, because you've got doilies coming out your ears now. You've got whatever you want in whatever size with 40 different options of patterns. So that's all these. Now, if you want to, and this is entirely up to you because I know you have to buy your cardstock and it's a cost, but you could cut all these out if you wanted to and make a little box that has all these in so that you can see what's what. It's entirely up to you what you prefer. What I might do, and I'm going to say this and then I might regret it because I might get a look from our videographer today. Might see if we can get these photographed so we can put them on as pictures so that you can see what it looks like. That might be a good idea. Oh, she's nodding at me, so we're all right, we're good. I think that will help. Rather than you wasting your cardstock, that's a brilliant idea. Let's do that. Right, so that's how you use these. So let me show you a little bit about how you do that. So, for example, oh, bear with. Let's press OK and go back to our mat. So let's say we wanted to use this detail with this detail. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that one. And remember, this isn't deleting it off your USB. This is just taking it off the screen. So if I want to cut out this shape as a frame, I've selected the two pieces that I want to use. So then all you do is multiple select everything that's on the mat. You press OK and you use your alignment function. And you go to align and you align them centrally vertically and centrally horizontally, and then you group them together. Object edit and group, and that will now create a frame. Your other option is to cut them as two separate pieces and stick one on top of the other. So with every one you've got frames and you've got solid layers, mats and layers. So it's super, super simple, and that's how you get the different combinations. So then you could use one with 4, one with 3, one with 2, 2 with 3, 2 with 4, 3 with 4. It just keeps going and going, which is just fabulous. And that's before you even go into anything, any other part of it. So that is how you would use the outside edges of those doilies, and there's 4 outside edges on each one: circles, squares, ovals, rectangles. But each one of the 40 doilies has a different outside edge, so they all work together. So you will have a different design of the inside pieces, so it might be an outward scallop rather than inverted scallop. If you want to go really off the wall and do different decorative elements with different doilies, you just need to be aware that, for example, so if I zoom in on this, it can end up a little bit too higgledy-piggledy if you're not careful. So if you look at this now, I've got this lovely scallop round the edge, but each one of these little scallops here, these inverted scallops, fits around this pattern. So this layer has been made specifically to work with that. You can try mixing and matching, but you won't get a cohesive doily. You'll get something that's a little bit more random. If you like random, brilliant. If you don't, if you like it to all look symmetrical and work properly, or not properly, that's the wrong word, so that it looks aesthetically pleasing, so that it's more symmetrical, then that's the way. You stick with the same edges with the same doily. But have a play around. You know, just have a play and see what it looks like. You don't even need to cut it. You can just bring it up on screen and have a look and think, oh yeah, I quite like that edge with that edge. It's up to you, okay? But all the sizes in the large will be the same going through. Right, so that's that bit. So let's get rid of that and let's go into the next category. So back into doilies and back into circle and back into doily number 6. So we've done the card shapes, we've talked about the decorative edge, but we're going to come back to that. We've then got the doily edge in large, medium and small. You've then got the just for you circle sentiment, and then down here you've got the pattern panel that the designer has decided to put in this particular doily. All right, so now you can see you've got 3 patterns. If I put it onto the screen, I'll be able to zoom in. So if we're going to edit and zoom in, these are going to fit inside of those 4 layers that we've just talked about. And right now they're going to cut into your cardstock. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've got those 3 there, and they are all separate. So you've got 3 separate ones. So your large, your medium and your small. And that's what I'm going to talk about them. That's how I'm going to name them: large, medium and small, because otherwise we've got layers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Gets too many numbers, okay? So all those you can cut separately. And right now they would cut into your cardstock. So let's say you decided you wanted to do an 8x8 card front and you wanted to have that design cut into the front of that card. That's how you do it. let's say you had a beautiful sentiment that was round and you wanted to frame that with ink. You could cut one of those into a piece of card or dough flex, ink through it, and it will put that pattern onto your card front. Okay, maybe you wanted to use that several times and ink through one in pink, move it slightly, do another one in turquoise, move it slightly, add a smaller one in. That's the versatility of that. So these right now, as they stand, just cut into your cardstock. Okay. So what if I want to cut those into a doily? Right, so let's move all these down here. So I want to add those into my doily design. So I'm going to press OK, I'm going to add, and we're going to go into retrieve data and into the USB. We're going to go back into our doilies, back into our circle doilies, back down to circle doily number 6, and bring on the doily edge large. So if I want to cut all those 3 inside that, the first thing I need to do is get rid of the 2 inside cut lines. So I can move that one out of the way and I can move that one out of the way. Once I start bringing those 2 in, it's going to cut those out of this. So if I keep them all layered up, I'm going to end up with frames because they cut out. So I'm going to get rid of these 2. So I'm going to go to edit, edit, and put that in the bin. And then back to the plain circle and put that in the bin. And then I'm actually going to get rid of this outside edge because this is the shape that I'm going to map those onto. So I can get rid of that one, put that in the bin. So now I've got my doily detail and my patterned panels. So I now go multiple select, everything on the mat. I press OK, I go to my alignment function, align at the top, centrally vertically and centrally horizontally, and that now cuts as one piece. And when you've cut it as one piece, this is what you get. So you've got your outside doily detail, we've removed the mat layer, we've removed the 2 cutting lines in here, so the decorative circle and the plain circle, and we've cut all 3 patterns into that. So you've then got that as a different option. Okay, that's exciting, isn't it? I love that. So that now would fit on your original outside frame, and then you could use layers 3 and 4 to create a ring that would go around there, a decorative frame that would go around there. It's really about playing. And the best advice I can give you is don't try and do everything at once, because your brain ends up absolutely scrambled because you're like, I could do layer 1, 4, 3, pattern 2, 4, 1. It just becomes too much. So just start and make one and cut that, and then from that one think, right, what else can I do? So for example, that's using all the detail that we've just put together. This is using the doily layer 2 from the first category we looked at with the large and the medium patterned panels. Okay, so we've removed the small one out of there. Then this one gives you, I'm using the layer 2, but I'm using the medium and the small patterned panel. So you might have a wreath shape that you want to put round there, or you might want to stamp images round in a circle. It's so cool. You might want to put happy and birthday around there. Okay. Then our next option is same outside edge, so same layer 2 from your doily, but with the large and the small. So it gives you a different look. So you might want a smaller sentiment to go in there, or a smaller wreath, or whatever it is that you want to put inside there. Okay. The next one is the detail with just the small one. So let's say you've got a wreath. You can see a little bit there that's not poked out. I have to get rid of that because it will drive me bonkers. There we go. That makes me feel a little bit happier. So you've got the layer 2 from your doily with the smallest patterned panel, and that would be a nice big wreath. or whatever it is that you want to do with it. This is about giving you the files so that you can use it in your style and add your creativity. Then we've got the detail with just the medium, which is another nice one. And then we've got just the detail on the large one. So all those different combinations again, just from using the doily and the pattern panels together, which I think is super, super, super cool. So loads and loads and loads and loads of options. Right, so that's that bit. So I'm going to let you absorb that, and then we'll come back and we'll do the next section and show you how that bit works as well. Okay.